the latest for Aaron Rodgers is that he still hates everybody, and he looks at the GM like he's Jerry Krause, which is not a compliment. And I was saying this to somebody the other day, and as someone who has worked for a boss that you don't like there's just you don't believe in, there's a point in time where it doesn't matter what they say to you, they can't win you back. And
what about when they call you 5 years after you're done working for them, like you want to do business anymore? Do you pick up the phone calls?
Some people do, some people don't, John. It's a personal decision. But with Aaron, like you and I were talking, what if Gutekunst calls him and is like, hey, let's mend these fences? If he looks at him like Jerry Krause, then he's not into mending fences. And if that's the case, he'd probably rather not play for him than rather not play for anybody than play for him. One way or the other, this is good news for probably ultimately the NFC and good news for the 49ers, the way this is going.
Do you think it's so hard to tell because it really has only been on the forefront now for less than a week. I guess about a week. Yeah, a week.
It's the 1 week anniversary on Thursday.
Do you envision him in a Packer as a quarterback this year?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that's hard about it. It's hard to take this story seriously because
there's clearly enough smoke where the fire's burning. He hates these people.
Yeah, and with hindsight, we see like all the stuff that was smoke right after the season ended, the week before their last playoff game, that was kind of downplayed when he went on with McAfee. All that stuff was real too. But
did he say it after they lost to Tampa? Like, I don't even know. Like, he kind of hinted at it the moment they lost.
I think the beautiful mystery thing, was that not before that game? Or was that after that game?
I thought that was after when he talked with Pat. I thought that after the Bucs game, he threw a curveball and people were like, damn, he's still talking like that? And it was weird.
Yeah, the beautiful mystery thing was just like on a press conference Zoom.
Yeah, that could have been just a regular late season game, playoff game.
I think that was before the Bucs game. I think
you're probably right,
but it was around the last couple. And then he said after the game they didn't, the decision to kick the field goal, all that stuff. There was criticism there. Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, it's hard for me to not picture him on the Packers, but it's clearly a real enough story that if he's back on the Packers, I don't think this is just about getting the most money out of the Packers. If this was just about contract negotiation, would you be gaslighting your own GM like this?
No, I think he is.
Somebody said it was post-game that.
It does feel a little bit game. Like it's got a legitimate chance to not happen. Like when I say not happen, like him to never play a Packer game again. Like he can make it so ugly if he doesn't show up because the Packers brass has enough. I would say the outside understanding to go like, listen, guys, this guy's never going to show back up. Like Khalil Mack's thing was he was holding out for more money. You traded him not because he was never going to show up, because you were never going to pay him the $90 million. It was just that simple. Like right. He knew his worth. Whether you didn't have the money, whether you didn't want to pay him, regardless, if you would have paid him the $90 million, he would have been a Raider. So I'm with you. But I do know this, and I don't even know why I did it. I was bored and I had a couple edibles. Started arguing with people on Twitter. Like, Aaron's had it pretty good in Green Bay. When you look at historically, like they do everything to win anything Brady needed. No, they actually didn't. Brady's best wide receiver in his championship years, you could argue his best wide receiver is either Troy Brown or Julian Edelman. He never won. People are like, what about Randy Moss? And didn't win a championship. Aaron's had a great offensive lines, star wide receivers. They never drafted one in the first round. Well, yeah, they were just hitting second and third round pick fucking grand slam.
Yeah, Bill did, and he missed on all of them.
But I'm saying the Packers.
No, I know.
Jordy, Devontae, Randall Cobb, like these guys were great players they drafted in the second and third round. That if he does leave the NFC, because I don't think the Packers could trade him in the NFC, because they would be able to get enough or equivalent draft compensation from AFC teams. It is a massive win. Like the powerhouse, even if Derek Carr were to get traded there, I would view them as a wild card team more than some like 13, 14, 15 win powerhouse. The Bucs had to go there and win. I would say Seattle, San Francisco, and LA would all be like, okay, this thing's opened up. And the NFC East doesn't really have a powerhouse team. Like to me, if he's on the team and he's in good spirits, you could argue like them and Tampa are just legit. It's between those two teams. And now one of the teams, whoever the best team out of the NFC West, could make hay with those two teams. But I think those would be the clear favorites, right? Coming into the season. Yeah. Like they're bringing everyone. They re-signed Aaron Jones. They're good. I mean, they just went. They hosted the. Tom had to beat them there. Now you could say that Tampa won't be a wild card this year, right? Drew Brees is gone. They'll win that division. Maybe they're the 1 seed. That's believable. But if Aaron was happy, I'd be like, it wouldn't shock me again if he had to go through Green Bay.
Well,
and that goes for the Niners too. The one time the Niners had struggled beating them, they beat him easily with Kyle. They beat him easy the one time they came out to Candlestick when Colin ran all over him. The second year, remember, when they went there in the freezing cold, was it Sam Shields or whoever the corner was, if he catches the ball, the Niners lose that game. It's hard to win there.
It's hard to win there, John. Even if you're the 1 seed, it's hard. First of all, Matt LaFleur is like a college coach right now. He's 26-6. Like, that's
with a playoff win.
In terms of first 2 years in the NFL, like 26-6 is pretty crazy.
I think McVay had a similar start.
But I mean, that's like these are. But even if they're not 13-3, I think
Kyle's like 6-25.
What was Harbaugh's first two?
I mean, 12, 13. Yeah, it was high.
So last year's 13-3 Packers team was different than the 13-3 Packers team that the Niners beat the year before. And you and I talked about that in 2019, that we'd watch the Packers. They did not really look like a 13-3 team to us. We'd been watching them all year. And you and I talked about it all last year, that the Packers looked much better than the years before version. That was a different team last year. And I think you told me you were reading Bob McGinn. They think around that organization that they can be like last year's team or better than last year's team again this year. And I thought last year's team was like, I think as they say in the movie Anchorman, the tits. Like, they were the tits. They were really good.
I think most people thought, especially once Kansas City's tackles went down, when it got to the Final Four, I did, but I think it was kind of consensus that it was Packers felt like the team to beat of the four, right? Like, once we got to the Final Four, it was like Rodgers in the peak of his powers. They got to win a game in Lambeau. Go. I picked them to win it all, and they didn't. I mean,
yeah.
But I think Aaron's comeback is like a huge reason of our dominance is me. And he's not wrong, but it's like, well, yeah, Aaron, that's the sport.
But obviously, but it's like, yeah, dude, yes, but we're paying you a lot of money. Thank God you're worth it. You elevate the players around you. We also have to make this. We got to make the defense better. We got to spend money other places.
Well, here's the thing, guy. I think it behooves Tampa, the Niners, Seattle, L.A., the Bears, Minnesota. I would be leaking fake shit. I would make this. I would like it. The league, especially the NFC, the Broncos, the Raiders, any team that wants to trade for them. There are going to be a lot of people circling to try to fuck the Packers now. And this is where I do think we did a video yesterday about them. You know, the Niners. Who knows? Maybe they're going to turn them in, see if they can penalize them. The Packers kind of have their back against the wall, and everyone's circling. Rodgers, all the other teams, obviously all the NFC teams want this thing to end. It's kind of them against the league. I mean, the teams that matter, right? The two teams that want to trade for them, and then all the sweet NFC teams and the teams in their division want this thing to get worse.
Right.
That is kind of a shitty position to be in.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the Bears,
well, unless like you said, you did. I saw Schefter say today. He claimed that his tweet because he really kind of, the dude from Minnesota did something. No one really believed him, and then Schefter said tangible stuff there. It did not come from Rodgers' camp, that it had been an accumulation of things. And I think that's fair. Like, over a couple of years, if he's calling him Jerry Krause, there might be things to Aaron, whether it's with Murphy, whether it's Gutekunst. It doesn't feel like it's with LaFleur as much. Like, they've kind of on the same page. Unless you read something.
Well, I think Tyler Dunn said something. Tyler Dunn's supposed to have a piece out Friday about Jordan Love, which, we'll see. How good is Jordan Love? But somebody wrote, like, the relationship with LaFleur is not bad, but it's also it's not great. It just kind of is, So
it's not like Peyton Breeze or Mahomes.
No, the impression being Matt LaFleur is not, their relationship is not one that LaFleur, because Aaron trusts him so much, can somehow save the situation, right? Like, that's kind of the insinuation there.
Yeah, so to me, it just starts, the more and more people you got throwing matches on the fire and gasoline on the fire, and just it's going to be hard for the Pack. If the Packers are able to fend this off, one, they just remain a powerhouse in the NFL, and it's pretty impressive because it feels like the avalanche is coming on them.
Yeah, it's like
Rodgers.
Rodgers.
You got close to hearing the last of the Jerry Krause type stories. Like I feel it's going to be just keep coming.
No,
the cat's out of the bag.
Also, if you're Aaron, part of the motivation here is you have to force them to do something they don't want to do, and you don't have the power to make them do. So part of this is about emotion. Like, let me make it so that they hate me so much they don't want me around anymore, right? To me, that's part of why the Krause thing comes out. Like, well, who would share that information? People who are tight with Aaron. Would they share that information? Aaron holds grudges like no one else in the history of mankind, so his friends are just going to start sharing his text messages? No. He can easily go to the phone. Who did I send that to? So, no. Like, it helps him if that's out. It helps him if the Packers feel like there's a point of no return. He is insulting us. He is insulting me. Like, that helps him. So, yeah. It's
been a crazy offseason for quarterbacks.
I know. The Deshaun thing, it's like Russ, Deshaun, Rodgers. We're 0 for 2 on guys getting traded at this point.
It worked for Stafford.
You're right. Stafford didn't do any of this stuff. Stafford just
no. Remember, the story was the day after the season ended, he went to the owner. The day Dan Campbell was hired, they all met. Like, you could say this. I'm not saying it would. Obviously, I think Aaron knows that they would never. If I went, barring peace, that's not going to work because they'll just try to give me peace back. Like, hey, we got a broker peace. Stafford approached it, but he dramatically different than the other three. He didn't leak a thing. He approached it professionally, and they did take care of him. Now, they were also in a complete blow-up, so it's not they're not.
They didn't think they had a Super Bowl team.
But there is something to be said about, like, handling your business like the NBA players isn't always going to work, especially in the NFL. Now, Rodgers might tell you, like, one, I don't give a shit what they think about me, which he clearly doesn't, and two, this is my only option. Same with Watson to go nuclear.
Yeah.
Because Russell didn't totally go nuclear. He leaked a little, and then Pete was like, "Be nicer," and then they were like, "We'll do some stuff," and then everyone's like, "Kumbaya." And it's like,
part of it
Sierra,
was like, what was Russ's end game? Was Russ's end game get me out of here, or just will you guys listen to me?
Yeah.
How much power?
I could see a story leaking like he wanted Carson back. He had identified Gabe Jackson. He had 3 guys in the draft. They drafted 2 of the 3 of them. He's very happy.
Russ's big board sits next to the other big boards. It's stapled to the wall.